All right. Well, Miss Faith, first of all, I want to thank you for meeting with me today. And I really want to tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you were providing Google Meets for students who were excluded for COVID. And I appreciate the fact that you went above and beyond to make sure that they had the opportunity to have those foundational skills. And not only that, but it also gave you an opportunity to build relationships with families. And so we know with pre-K, this is our first time with families. So to see you interacting in that Google Meet, I just want to just praise you and say thank you so much. So I want to start out by that because I really do appreciate the fact that you took the time to do that. So when we think about your lesson that you did on September 30th, as you reviewed the video and thought about that lesson, what did you think that went really well?
I think putting actions. I know at the beginning of the week I wasn't as animated, but getting more animated got their attention better. Adding a puppet, which helped a little bit with that. I think, honestly, being remote with a 4-year-old, I just think the participation went really well.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And so actually when I thought about the lesson too, and I viewed the lesson from the lens, I thought engagement was really strong. So that's exactly what I was thinking too. There was lots of evidence there in the video that the students were engaged. They were modeling the motions that you were showing them. He was excited about participating, you know, and he responded well to the character. Also, you could see the excitement and the curiosity. There was a couple times he asked some why questions. So, you know, students are really engaged when they're asking questions back. So, I'm like you. I felt like the engagement was strong. And I love the fact that you were able to say earlier in the week when you were doing it, you noticed they weren't as engaged. So you changed and you put the motions in place. I love the like run a mile with a smile. Mm-hmm. And how you modeled that. So just continue using those motions in your model because that does really help keep those students engaged. So when you thought about that lesson or reviewed that lesson, I asked you to specifically kind of think about what sounds were being modeled in the lesson. So when you thought about the sounds, what sounds do you think the students had the opportunity to hear in that lesson?
Do you want the letters?
Or the sounds.
Or the sounds.
Yeah, I want the sounds.
There was p,
okay.
B, w,
okay.
g,
okay.
l.
Okay. So when we think about those sounds, when you were listening to the video and the child producing the sounds, did you feel like he was producing those sounds as accurately as you would want him to produce them in articulation?
No. So when I went back, some of the sounds I think I did well. Some I tried to look at the videos and I couldn't find. I was going to bring that today or to my next PLC to reflect on the videos because I couldn't find the sound videos to watch because I think there was some uhs on them, which he, in his benefit, he said what I said.
Okay. So as you
but I don't know if I said them all.
Okay.
Because I think there was some uhs.
Okay.
They were short.
Okay.
I will say that. They weren't long uhs, but they were short uhs.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that as you reflected and watched the video, you heard the schwa being added on some of the sounds. The sound, the schwa, right? Where you kind of extended the sound a little bit and maybe didn't clip it. And so what I heard you say too is that you had already thought about bringing the articulation video to your next PLC, possibly with Miss Stacy, and was going back to look for it.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So, all right. So as I looked at the video too, there was some evidence of the schwa being added to those articulations. So that is something that I think we all can go back and revisit just because where we live locally, we tend to add that on. And so as being a pre-K teacher, we want that first opportunity for them to hear those sounds. So that articulation video, Miss Stacy does have a copy. I have a copy, and we'll make sure that you get a copy. And like you, I went back and revisited the video too, and what I was able to find is those sounds are what we consider those quick sounds and that we really need to clip. Now there were a couple of the sounds that fell under the sustained sounds, the L falls under the sustain sound. So when you preview the video and look for those sounds, you can look at the quick and the sustained, and that's where those sounds are. So as we think about your reflection and your next steps, it sounds like you've already been thinking about what your next steps are.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about your next steps.
Find that video.
Okay, all right.
And find the video. Make sure I'm saying the sounds correctly to encourage them. Also, that week, which it was just doing it, not abroad, remote was very hard. I got to just like writing out even motions. Like I pre-wrote. The regular length was too much on a computer, so I had to shorten it. But even pre-looking at, because that's something you don't typically, I mean, it's just sweet. I don't know. And writing in the nursery rhymes, like, pre-looking at it even deeper than it's already laid out to look at. If that makes any sense.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you realize that you need to preview it a little bit deeper before you start. And also you're going to look at that articulation videos for your next steps.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I love that. So the last thing that I kind of wanted to tie us up together is that I always think it's important with pre-K that, you know, we're talking about a reinforcement and refinement, and you've always went through that process. And obviously you reinforced student engagement, right? Continue what you're doing. Those motions are helping. And then refinement, you've already talked about that you're going to work on your articulation and preview in the video. But I also want to make a connection to our class rubric or observation that we use, right? So foundational skills obviously would fall under the instructional support part of the class. So one of the areas under that instructional support is language modeling and advanced language. And so when you're thinking about language modeling, you know, it talks about self-talk and parallel talk. And we've talked about that a little bit, but I was thinking even with the self-talk, one thing you might think about on the L, when you were modeling that sound, you were showing him how to place the tongue, but you could even use self-talk when you were doing that. I'm placing my tongue, you know, here at the, behind. So think about how you could include that self-talk and that modeling at the same time. And one of the things that I thought about our articulation, and I feel like this would be helpful for all of our pre-K, is as pre-K supervisor, I'm going to reach out to our speech pathologist that we have and ask her about maybe just doing some short things with us on articulation for all of us, and that would be a good practice. So as far as supports from the district, I plan on trying to follow up with her and have her to do some sounds with us. And then also I wanted to encourage you to think about, as you're doing that model and doing that articulation, think about your self-talk and how you could talk them through it. And I also pulled out a video that was on the L sound specifically, and there is a speech pathologist that is modeling it and shows the tongue placement. So I'll share that with you too, so that you could specifically look at that and maybe write out a script about like the self-talk using her with it. Information. Okay. So let's summarize just first about our next steps. So you tell me again what you're going to do with your next steps.
Watch the sound videos.
Okay.
Write out a self-talk script to go with that. And then keep adding the motions. Keep adding the motions.
Okay. And I always like to end our conversations for you to tell me what is one thing today that I said that you are doing really well and that I want you to keep up, or something that I really appreciate that you're doing.
Oh, motions and the family connections.
Absolutely. You're doing a good job. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.